It's bacon time, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Dads with Bacon talking games and more. And we're actually going to talk about a little more than just games tonight as we're getting ready for Christmas coming up this weekend. But first of all, we're going to start with talking games, and I'm going to get right to it, bring in our 3 guests for this episode. First, we got Nick. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good, good. So tell me a little bit about why you game.
Uh, Mostly for an escape. I mean, when I first started, I was probably 1 year old when I started, all the way back with the Atari 2600. Man, Pitfall. That was my go-to game. Um, Here lately, just to de-stress from work and life. Kids getting out of school with Christmas and just everything going on. Yeah.
Now, how old are your kids?
Mine are 16 and 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
So now, do the both of them game?
Oh yes, absolutely. Both of them do.
Do you compete against them, or do you kind of play games that they don't play, or how does that work?
My son, my 16-year-old, me and him do competitive game a little bit. My daughter, she's a little bit more on her own. She loves her own little games, Roblox, Minecraft. She plays Goat Simulator a lot, which is oddly surprising to me.
So now, your son, what games? When you said you play, I mean, competitively, do you play as a team usually, or compete against one another? What games do you guys play?
It depends on mood. A lot of the time, we'll get on our Quest 2 VR headsets and play like
Oh,
Onward or Contractors, just those Call of Duty esque games.
sure.
He likes playing the zombie Call of Duty games with me, so that
Okay.
way we have the opportunity to kind of not really compete but work together. Um, but he does play his own little games, so
Nice. Nice. Yeah, my son's getting into Fortnite. I mean, like big time. And I got to be honest with you. I don't really. I've played Fortnite, and in fact, the last time I played it, I completely forgot about the whole concept of building things, and
hmm
I fell into this like ditch, and I kept trying to jump to get out. And it wasn't until somebody came down and killed me and then built their way out of it that I'm like, oh, that's right, I can build stuff. So yeah, I try not to. I usually don't get. I mean, he and
yeah,
I play
I
Mario Kart or
tried to
something, but yeah.
yeah I tried to get into Fortnite, and I'm just like, no, this really isn't for me.
All right, cool.
And it wasn't just for the fact that I sucked at I really didn't get into it. So
Sure. Well, yeah, and we'll get in once I introduce the other 2 guys. Like I said, we'll get into what some of our favorite genres are because yeah, it's Fortnite. That I mean, it's a great game. I enjoy actually watching my son play more than I do enjoy playing it. And enjoy watching others play, but it's not really my cup of tea. So
right.
yeah, we'll bring in Jameson. Jameson, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us this week. So tell me why you game.
It's kind of the same as Nick. It's kind of the escape. It's getting out and away from everything else that I'm stressing out about in the world. But it's it's also the community, just the friends that I have, the group that I have that I play with, and getting to talk to those guys every night and getting to be around them. And most of us are parents and married and don't get to see each other every night, so getting to hang out and play stuff with them is kind of the way we all get to stay connected and stay around each other.
Sure. Now, why? Okay, so let me, and I guess Nick, you can answer this too after Jameson has a chance, and Marco, if you hopefully you can hear me backstage there, you can answer this too. I mean, you both hit on a point that, frankly, is the reason why part of the reason why I game as well, and most of the reason why or why most of the people I know game, in terms of like just an escape and unwind. Like when I play, I love sports games, but when I play Madden or NBA 2K, I don't go on all Madden. I don't go on the top. I don't go on any level that's going to really stress me out. It's like I play the second to easiest level, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to win. and it's more just like I'll take my favorite team's the Packers, so I'll take the Packers, and I'll see if I can win only by throwing the ball to Christian Watson the whole game, or what, something like that. Like I'll kind of challenge. So I guess my question to you, and as I'm rambling here, is Jameson first. Why did you start gaming? I mean, we're adults now, so now we do it kind of to de-stress. But tell me why you started gaming to begin with.
Honestly, it's my older brother. So I have a brother that's older than me he's 11 years older than I am. So as I was growing up, I was watching him play Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, and then
Sure.
just growing into it. And he also played a tabletop RPG called Shadowrun at the time with a bunch of friends that he had. And just it was our there was a lot going on with our family, and that was kind of his way to keep me away from everything when I was younger. And so I kind of grew into this. It was the escape from everything going on, and it was the escape I got to have with him.
Sure.
And it was just enjoyable to get to. It is legitimately like living a second life, because you're making all of the decisions, you're deciding where you go, why are you doing these things, and it just grasped me. It really is. It was the entertainment that was like nothing else that I had experienced at that age. And even as I've gotten older, it's still the most unique experience I deal with every day.
Sure. Now, Nick, why did you start gaming?
I mean, it just like Jameson said, it's probably the same for me. I'm the oldest child.
Okay.
So back in 1982, that tells you how old I am. Back in 1982, I was pretty much on my own. My mom, worked 2-3 jobs to support me and her. My dad wasn't even in the picture. So I guess a lot of it had to do with, not having to deal with the resentment of him, just trying to keep my mind occupied and not be mad all the time. Some of the times it didn't work. Most of the time it did. But for the most part, yeah, it was just, not having to deal with life hitting me in the face when, I was 1-2 years old. So.
Sure. Okay. All right, cool. Well, we'll bring in Marco now. Hey, Marco, how are you doing?
Hey guys, what's happening?
Not much. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I'll just have you introduce yourself and then tell us why you game, and I guess to piggyback on what Nick and Jameson were just saying, why do you game now? Why did you start gaming?
Started gaming 4 or 5 years old. Was it 85, 86, regular Nintendo, Christmas morning, Mario Brothers, and then just, kind of kept with it all the way, all the way through. It was always part of the friend groups, you hang out with people that were playing games that had Nintendos and going through them all, played them all. And then in, when Madden came out in like the late 90s, and early 2000s, we used to get together every week. So, you play online franchise modes now, but we would get together and play franchise modes at my buddy's house. 10 of us would get together. We'd all pick teams from each conference so we could meet up in the Super Bowl. And even if you didn't have a game that week, we would still show up and watch, like we were watching games on Sunday, but we were watching, Madden games. I had a short time as a GameStop manager, so that helps fuel being a gamer, right? Being there for the Xbox launch and things like that. Then I have kids. I got a 16-year-old now who, will be gaming, 11 and 12-year-olds that game. And then whenever I get a chance to kind of unplug and zone out, I'll, throw on. Right now I'm in the middle of Madden 18 season 2025 and just plugging along. So just something that just kind of started and snowballed, and it's where it's at now. So it's part of the culture, whereas before being a gamer was kind of a underculture type thing. You're a gamer, but now it's like if you're not a gamer, you're like, oh, why aren't you playing the new Modern Warfare? What do you don't know?
So. Yeah, it has definitely. There's still certain I think certain areas of or certain groups, demographics of this, in the U.S. where it's still like, oh, you play video games, but I think for the most part, yeah, like you said, it's become much cooler than it. Certainly, then I mean, I'm 46 years old, so when I first started gaming, it was not, that was not necessarily the cool thing, and I started gaming because I loved competing, but I while I loved traditional sports, I sucked at pretty much all of them. I went to Lutheran schools all my life, so they were small schools. No matter what sport you went out for, you made the team, but that didn't mean you got to play. And so it's like I'm on the team, but I'm just sitting there watching on the bench. I mean, it just sucked. So like I was always into sports games, just because like kind of I mean, Madden was it was, gosh, how long was I was probably about 10 or 15 years after I started playing games that Madden finally came out. But I mean, before that, you had Tecmo Super Bowl and a few other games that were
John Elway's quarterback.
Yeah.
It was always red versus blue.
Yeah. Joe Montana had a game, I think that was Joe Montana's, something similar to that, Joe Montana's quarterback or whatever it was called. I think that was for the Sega Genesis. But yeah, anyway, so let me ask you a quick question since you brought Madden up. Now, you said you're playing right now Madden 18?
Yeah, so I'm playing Madden 18, and we're in 2025 season, so we've progressed.
Okay. So now, do you buy it every year or not?
Someone in the house usually buys it. So
Okay.
yes, I have, but so I like to play franchise mode. So there's one year where there was no franchise mode, so I was like, that's I'm not going to buy that one.
Yeah.
Some years, like 21 was not as good as 20. So I didn't play that very much. And then I just now started to play 20. We're on 23 now, right?
23, yeah.
And I like some of the changes that they've made to it, where they kind of slow it down and they kind of really slow down the gameplay. So I play with the sliders a lot, right? So I'm
sure.
So a lot of people, you're playing on All Pro Madden, whatever, but then I'll go and find websites that tell you like what's a good way to set the sliders so that it's more simulation and more realistic. When you play these guys online and they're picking the same 3 plays and they're doing outrageous, catches and playing it with no energy or no, stamina loss. I'm like, that's video game stuff. I like the simulation part of it.
Yeah. So do I. The reason I asked you if you buy it every year is I actually had a friend of mine who, and this was years ago, it's probably in the early 2000s, that he said he only bought it every other year because he felt like they didn't really do a lot of innovate. I mean, and I mean, you really can't when you're like, that's the one thing that sucks about sports games is that when you're doing it once a year, you got basically 9 months to, from that you have to work on that game. And so his attitude was always like, yeah, they really only make big changes like every other year. And so that's why I asked that.
Yeah, no. So I don't know what year it was, but I actually toured the EA Madden facility with
nice
employee once. Met a guy on an airplane, and then he was like, "Yeah, if you're ever down, in the Orlando area again, hit me up." And I did, and he came through, and it was really cool. And they actually, yeah. So I was like, "How come sometimes it feels like it's a just a roster update?" And they're like, "Because we're looking to make the changes that are more advanced further down the line." So it's like, sure, we can't do that fast. We have to be thinking 2 or 3 seasons ahead so that we can make it work, because the technology and the programming just isn't there yet.
Well, and that definitely makes sense. I mean, that's why sometimes it's, I've been critical of sports games, especially in the past, but then you take a step back and then you of course you find some people on Facebook and Twitter who are just, ripping on the employees and the programmers, and you're like, dude, I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, it's a video game, it's not, they can't make it perfect. So I think people need to kind of take a step back. I think that goes for all games. I mean, it's one thing when you release a crap game and you know that it's garbage, but you need to get it out by a certain time. But it's another thing when, I mean, you're I don't know. I think there have been cases where companies have done things that are, or publishers, I should say, have done things that are just egregiously, bad, and they knew that they were bad, and still put out the game, and had people buy them, and I, there's a couple that are in my head, and I can't think of the names of them right now, but we'll go on to a different topic. So,
well, I think was it Project Red or whatever? I have it now. It's a Christmas gift with Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
They released it, and it was a pile of dog do. They've patched it up, and I've heard it's actually quite the game now. So they've made good, and I'm going to jump in on that Christmas morning and see how that goes.
And wasn't that where it was a good, because they made it for multiple consoles, and I thought that might have been the one where like some of the people that bought it for like the older gen consoles were like, oh, it's actually a really good game.
So I had bought it the day it come out for PC.
Okay.
And like it played fine. Like it was really good on the PC. But then, I would talk to friends at work or talk to friends online, and they bought it for the PS4 or the Xbox One, and it was just an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Like they did not control it well at all for those systems. But it's like, with the PC, they have a little bit more to work with because they have the capabilities of, pumping out day one patches or fixing it as they go. Whereas with the console, they have to make the patch. They have to port the patch to that system. It's just like, they should have just took more time with it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think they struggled, especially with that. Cyberpunk was so spoken about for like 6 or 7 years after they had originally discussed it and showed it at E3, and then it just kind of stayed on the back burner. And then Witcher 3 happened, and I think everybody kind of hopped on the bandwagon after that because that game was so well done. And really hit the mark on a lot of spots. And then they got to the crunch time of Cyberpunk, and they knew it was there was an executive that did an interview sometime after it was released and had spoken about how teams were kind of clashing because the design team knew that it wasn't quite ready yet, but some of the production and promotion team was like, we can produce this, we can put this game out, it's ready to go on the shelves. And they're like, but it's not ready. And we can't take another 6 months to make it ready because we're at the point where it's either do or die and put it out now. And I think that showed a struggle that a lot of companies I think have dealt with, especially like EA with like sports games. Everyone expects it now. So you have to pump one out. You have to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, okay, let's go on to the next topic, which, in favorite games and genres. So, Nick, why don't you go out and start? What is your favorite game that you've ever played? A game you keep going back to, maybe?
Oh God, I would have to say at this point in time, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. That's the only reason why I bought a Nintendo Switch. And then I hear just recently bought a Steam Deck. And found out that you could actually emulate Wii U Breath of the Wild on Steam Deck, and it just like I was sold with it the second I picked it up.
Now, have you always been into the Legend of Zelda series?
Oh, absolutely! Like I've been a fan since the first game came out. Like I've played and beat all of them. I would have to say my GOAT game though would be Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
Like I'd pick that up any day of the week and play it, just straight through. Wouldn't stop.
Okay. So now, what's your favorite genre?
I'd have to say the RPG genre.
RPG.
Like
okay.
I know. Like if you were to look at my game library, you'd see a lot of first person shooters, which I do enjoy those as well. But I think it's the fantasy of the RPG. It's something you can't do in real life.
Sure.
Like you can walk out here and learn how to shoot a gun or, learn how to play football or baseball. You can't walk out here and stab somebody in the back with a knife. That's frowned upon. So it's like, it's not just like that genre in general. It's not just like, a release, but it's like a stress reliever. Like
Sure.
if you have pent up anger from the day, like having to deal with just a bunch of crap all day, you pop in Skyrim or, Assassin's Creed, just
Yeah.
go hog wild. So yeah, I'd have to say RPG. RPG would be my favorite.
Okay. Jameson, how about you?
The game I keep going back to, and it's the game I've kept going back to for 18 years now, which was a bit of a shell shock the other day, is World of Warcraft.
Okay.
I played the original Warcraft, and this will show how much of the young gun I am in this group. I played the original Warcrafts growing up, and that was my real introduction into RTSs. Like I knew of Command and Conquer and everything, but there was something about that world that resonated with me. And then as World of Warcraft came out as a kid, we all played together, and then as we've all gotten older, we just kept playing every expansion, and we're just continuing to play, and it is my one go-to every year. My greatest game of all time, it's one that's a little bit hidden in the fact that it has a cult following, is a game that was on GameCube a while ago called Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem.
Oh my God, yes, that was such a good game.
That was, I think, one of the first games that did the storytelling and the adventure of it all in one aspect. It almost felt like a movie at times, where if you looked away and didn't pay attention, you were missing something, and then something else was confusing because you missed it.
Okay.
So it was so brilliantly done, and as the game would progress and your character became more psychotic, and she was losing herself in this mystery she was solving, it would mess with you, and it would turn the volume up on your TV, and then it would blue screen you, and it would just fool you. Like the screen would go black, but the game would continue to play, and it really immersed you in this entire thing that it was spinning. And it still is, I think, one of the best designed versions of what a horror game and what a psychological game can be and should be for people.
Okay. Yeah, I did hear about that, or I heard about that game when you mentioned it. I've never played that game, but you said that was for GameCube?
Yeah, it was originally.
Okay.
I think it was a GameCube only exclusive.
Okay. Okay. So then, what would your? I mean, you mentioned Warcraft or World of Warcraft, and you mentioned that game. Well, what would be your? Well, first I'll ask you about your genre, and then I want to go back and ask actually all three of you a question that we had talked about also last week with the three guys that were on last week. So, Jameson, what's your favorite genre?
I'm probably say RPGs, because it's the whole umbrella, right? Because there's so many things underneath that umbrella, and you touch it. But I think a close second for me, and it's funny that you guys, most people forget that it's something that I'm really addicted to in my friends group. Sports games, probably a close second. I mean, I play almost every sports game that comes out every year. I've played FIFA and Madden, and then NCAA is coming back, and even like the UFC games, playing the show. I was an athlete growing up, and I continued to be an athlete in the age where my knees don't want to do it anymore.
I've been there too. Okay, so actually, going back to when you brought up World of Warcraft, and we talked about this last week, near the end of the show last week. With World of Warcraft being a Blizzard game, what were your thoughts? And again, all three of you. I'll ask Jameson. I'll ask for your opinion first, and all three of you feel free to chime in on this. The Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. What were your thoughts on that? Was that something? Because it seemed to really, it seemed to really start. I don't want to say a firestorm, but I mean, it certainly started a lot of conversation, on social media regarding. Here's another major company buying up, another game company, and whatever. Did you feel good, bad, indifferent to the whole thing?
I didn't really have anything against it, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I grew up a Microsoft kid.
Sure.
like I remember playing my 360 every day for
Mhm.
years. It felt like, and um, especially as of recently with Microsoft having the Game Pass and how well that's done, and even me, like I own it personally and use it. It's a great system, and it's done a lot for the community of gamers who, oh, that looks interesting, but I don't know if I want to spend $60 on it. And Microsoft is kind of out here not only supporting these companies that want to put out these kinds of games, but maybe don't necessarily have the ability or the money to produce it, but also allowing us to get more involved as players with these companies and these brands. So I think, especially after everything that Blizzard went through leading
Yeah.
into that buyout, I don't think it's a bad move. I can understand why people are upset because Blizzard is a Goliath getting bought up by obviously one of the largest global companies in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Activision and Blizzard have been through a lot, and they've had to do a lot of shifting and maintaining, and a lot of righting a ship that was very wronged for a while. And I think one of the best ways you can do that is get a company who's obviously doing something correct, being worth billions of dollars, and understands the world of business and how to maintain the ship in the right direction.
Sure. Marco, what were your thoughts when you heard about that? Did you have any opinion on it one way or the other?
I didn't really. I mean, I'm not tied to any Blizzard games. I'm not, particularly, I knew that they had their particular issues with certain releases and things like that. I thought it was a good move in order to help Microsoft do some of the things that they promised when they first brought out the Xbox 360 and the online gaming and things like that. And I thought that it was going to be a good, a good get on, those game developers and engineers to help produce, great games. So I hope it's a good thing. I'm not, heartbroken over it or kind of indifferent to it. I just like when good games are produced and if good good gaming experiences can come out of it.
Sure. Okay, Nick, how about you? And then Marco, will come to you about your favorite game and genre here in just a second.
Sure.
I mean, when I first heard it, I was surprised about it. Like I had heard a rumor, but I wasn't really expecting it. And like Jameson said, with everything that Blizzard had been through prior to that, I think it was a good move on their part to be acquisitioned by Microsoft, just because it kind of softened the flack that they were catching.
Sure.
But all in all, Microsoft has a lot of abilities within their control to make their games better. Now, with that, will they make a lot of their games Xbox exclusive or PC exclusive or what have you? That still remains to be seen with everything, with all the talks with PlayStation and everything. But I'm really curious to see, where they go with it. And obviously with PlayStation buying, the companies that they ended up buying in response to it, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Like at the end of the day, is PlayStation or Sony and Microsoft just going to own every developer and just have exclusive on exclusive?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the biggest concerns that I heard, in the different groups that I'm involved in and things like that with games, is, people who are really interested in independent game or indie developers and the small developers who have nothing to lose. And that might not be the best way to phrase it, but I feel like a lot of the innovation that you see in games nowadays is coming out of the indie developers who, it's like, hey, I'm going to make the game I want to make. And you see a lot of the bigger publishers just going for the easy money, whether it's, hey, let's just churn out another Call of Duty game, or nothing against Call of Duty. I like the game, but there are a lot of people who feel like the big companies, whether it's Microsoft or Sony or Activision Blizzard, are more adverse to taking chances than the small guys. And so with all these publishers going out and buying these big companies, I think there's a lot of people that are afraid that there's not going to be, we'll get to a point where there's just no more innovation. There's no more new ideas coming out because, hey, it's just easy money to start churning out sequels. Jameson, is that something that you think is worth being concerned about, or do you think people are kind of overreacting there?
I think naturally, yeah. Like I think as a gamer, you worry about it, right? Because everybody wants that the great new thing. I mean, From Software did it years ago when they released Demon's Souls, and that was a whole brand new innovation that everyone was like, man, this RPG is awesome because it's got a great world, but it's nearly impossible, and I don't want to be here anymore. But I think there was this. I think Microsoft has shown a beauty in it that I think at times Sony keeps missing the mark on. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think Sony's just trying to figure out how they want to do this, especially having studios like Naughty Dog who are just churning out absolute gems every couple of years. It's really hard to go to this small studio of like 10 guys and go, hey, make a God of War-esque game. Like that's just not the same kind of discussion. Sure. So I think Microsoft has shown that they've given this great support to indie developers, especially with stuff like there was a game put out a little while ago called Ori and the Blind Forest, and they actually did a follow-up sequel to that. It's a platformer game that's kind of rooted in this original style that gaming was designed in, and it's really fantastically done. The team was really small when it started, and Microsoft kind of came in and took them underneath them, and they were like, hey, so you're developing it your way, we're just supporting you so you have the money to do it. And it's got a great soundtrack, it's got a great world. It really is a well done piece of gaming, and Microsoft has just continued to do that with indie developers. There's another platform they just released called Moonscars that's really fantastic. And I think that's why I'm less concerned about it with Microsoft getting them, because I think Phil Spencer, regardless of how people maybe feel about him as an individual, does a good job of saying like, hey man, if you think it's a good idea and it looks cool, like let's do it. Like I obviously have endless funds and my company's not going anywhere. So let's give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then we know.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. So Marco, sorry, I didn't mean to compete, leave you just hanging out there. What about you? Good. Favorite game and genre?
So I'm a sports guy, right? Yep. My favorite game might be, kind of a toss up between NCAA 13 and wrestling games from the N64. Those were really good. The WCW versus NWO and WrestleMania 2000, things like that. It's funny though, because we were talking about the Microsoft and Activision deal, and I see the FTC was actually trying to block the deal. And there was it actually just updated as we went on at 8:30 Eastern time that there was some talk. So I had no idea how big and competitive that whole situation was. It's pretty interesting, that side of things, as they're trying to monopolize Call of Duty or whatever it is that they're trying to do. And
I didn't bring that up only because from what I've heard, a lot of people have said, and I don't know if any of you guys have heard, similar things or something different, but it sounds like most of the experts in the industry believe that it eventually will get done. So that's it's just the FTC is kind of sticking their nose in it, and maybe a few things will change, but for the most part, Microsoft, it sounds like, will still eventually get Activision Blizzard. So that's why I didn't really bring it up or bring that part up. But okay, so now let me ask you, because NCAA 14 is actually one of my favorites. Oh, so why do you choose 13 over say 14?
Some of the features, I only played 14 a little bit, so like I always wait a year or I play them every year, but when I get hooked in on a particular flow of a game, I'll wait for something drastic to happen, and unfortunately the drastic thing for NCAA was that it went away. So no why I stuck with 13. I also missed the BCS, so if I can go back and play any of those other, I think 14 is the first one where they introduced the playoff, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the BCS. So I like playing to the computer's decision on who's number one overall.
Sure. Well, yeah, and and I don't know if you're at all like me. I mean, one of the things that I liked about NCAA, I think as a whole, but especially the more recent version, so like 13, 14, 12, all that, is I like the ability to kind of customize things. So, whether it's like changing teams from, hey, let's see what Alabama, because I'm a Big Ten guy being up here in Wisconsin, so like, hey, maybe let's put Alabama in the Big Ten and see what that would, just kind of having more freedom, almost like a sandbox kind of thing.
Yeah,
And so I mean that's one of the, and then I also loved well, let me just, I guess I'll answer this question since I asked you guys, and then Marco will get your favorite genre, though I'm assuming it's, I would guess it might be sports, but I'll let you answer it. For me, NCAA football is probably my favorite series. I kind of feel like, and I know I just talked a little bit ago about, fans ripping on like developers and things. I feel like EA Sports, for one reason or another, almost put more effort into NCAA than it does Madden. And I could be completely wrong. I probably am. I'm sure they put equal effort into both when NCAA was still around, and I look forward to the new NCAA. But I just felt like every year there was something new for NCAA football. And whereas with Madden, there were years where it just felt like it was a roster update, and even though it's the same timeline, it's about a 9-10 month, or maybe 11-month process for each one. There was something so fun. Like I could play, 10, 20 seasons on NCAA football. And with Madden, I try to get into it and try to play like, multiple seasons. And after a while, I'm just like, okay, this isn't doing anything for me anymore,
Yeah, and I think it's the difference between the games, right? In terms of like the college game versus the pro game. Like
Sure.
when you're just playing against the salary cap, and all right, fine. But when you're playing against like recruiting, you have 120 teams versus just 32. There's just so much more. And then the college atmosphere, it's just, I found it to be just a much more entertaining game, as it is. And I would historically do NCAA, and then I'd export the draft class to my Madden. Then I'd play Madden for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd go back, play a little bit of NCAA for a few seasons, and just
Love
keep
that.
doing that.
Best feature they ever added.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was a very cool. I'm hoping they'll bring that back, but I mean, who knows if they'll do that for the new NCAA into Madden. But yeah, I used to love. This is the kind of the dork. I mean, again, this is why I play sports games, and just as something to relax, not something to be stressed out about. But I'd always played Wisconsin, and then when I exported the draft class, I'd switch. I'd play Madden for a while, like you said, but I'd only draft players for the Packers from Wisconsin, just to see. And again, I mean, maybe I lose one game, like just on some fluke play, every year. But I think at one point I had won like 75 games in a row on NCAA, and about the same with Madden. But some of my friends would be like, "Why don't you maybe go up to the next level?" I'm like, well, "No, I mean, I don't do it. I'm under no delusions that I'm going to be like I'm going to go onto the Madden tour and win, $1 million or something. I mean, if I played those guys, those pros, I'd probably be losing like 21-0 in the first 2 minutes of the game. I mean, they're amazing. So it's like, no, I want to do this for fun and relax. And yeah, that's it. So, okay. Now that I've rambled here, Marco, favorite genre, is it sports or
yeah, it'd be sports, but I mean, you can't not appreciate the RPG and the open world games that are out there,
Sure.
So like my favorite game might be Ghost of Tsushima, which is beautiful. I'll probably have a lot of fun with Cyberpunk, just being able to do different things. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to have to be phenomenal. Dead Red Revolver. What was it? Red? I always say it wrong.
Red Dead.
Red Dead 2 was a
Okay.
good one.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a great one. But yeah, I always fall back on sports just because, you know, if I'm angry and I want to knock somebody out, I'll throw in UFC or Fight Night, you know, one of the older games, you know.
Sure.
You know, if I'm getting nostalgic and I want to play some wrestling, you know, it's those games are those are what do it for me.
You
Yeah,
know,
totally to piggyback off Marco. Can we get a good wrestling game again? Because the last like 10 years of wrestling games have been rough, man.
I was looking
Agreed.
forward to
Agreed.
2K getting their hands on it, and that didn't happen either.
Apparently,
God, when was the last good wrestling game made? Well, it was like what, SmackDown versus Raw 06?
Probably.
I think-
If that one.
2009 wasn't too, or 2007 wasn't too bad. I heard the rumor mill now is AEW is getting their own game. So we'll see how that ends because they're partnered with NJPW and Ring of Honor and the 1,000 other promotions that are dumping talent into them. So all of
Right.
those rosters are getting put into the game. So I think it'll be cool to see being a wrestling fan as I have been since I was a kid and knowing friends that are really only WWE fans. If that happens, getting to see them play some of the greats that have wrestled in New Japan only or are only at AEW and Ring of Honor, getting to watch them see these guys, and I'm hoping it's good. I'm really holding my breath for this one to see that if they can make a decent wrestling game, because NWO versus WCW on the Nintendo 64 was probably one of the best games they ever made, and it as a kid was the only game I was allowed to play Sting and Saturn as a tag team in, so I just did that constantly.
Yeah. You know, the GM modes in Raw were kind of good, and but the gameplay and just the whole, it just feels wonky still. And I wonder if there'll ever be an opportunity to have the bandwidth to have starting with one or two people in a ring and to really have a Royal Rumble and have, I mean, you see it on
Right.
If we can get 150 people on an island, let's get 30 people in a ring.
Right.
So that'd be cool.
Okay. Oh, and so as we're have a little bit of a break here, I want to let everybody know, for those of you that are making comments, and I said this yesterday on the sports show too. For some reason on StreamYard, and I have to look into it more. If you're watching on Facebook, like if you're watching on Twitch, I see your name and your comment. If I'm watching on Facebook, or if you're watching on Facebook and you comment, all it says is Facebook user, and then it gives your comment. So we have a couple comments here. SmackDown on PS2 was solid. I don't know, where do you guys' opinions on that one? I'm not a big I'm not a big wrestling game. I was way back.
Shut Your Mouth was really good. that one, yeah.
I'd
have to agree with that.
I'll let you three talk here.
With the old school fist SmackDown stage, that was, yep.
Okay. And then let's see. Hold on. Someone said made a comment about No Mercy. Was that another?
That was in the same timeline of the N64 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that was during the Monday Night Wars and peak wrestling viewing. That was a good one as well.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I wanted to make sure people didn't think I was just completely ignoring, because I don't know if you three can see the comments or if it's just me, because I have like the one that controls everything. Maybe so.
I see no comments.
You see, okay,
all right.
So
I clicked the
it's
comment.
just me.
You got to click the comment box. We have private chat and then the comments, and then when I clicked on that, I could see that wrestling games hit a chord with a couple people.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, and then and Tecmo Super Bowl. So that's one. Are any of you guys into that game? Because I know last week, a couple of the guys that I had on were really into like the retro, especially Tecmo Super Bowl. Are any of you into? Were you playing that back when it was out?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Even when it was, so late 90s, early 2000s, we were still playing that at a buddy's house.
Yeah.
And They have that new Retro Bowl as a mobile game, which is basically the same type of thing. On my Nintendo Switch, you could play some of the retro games. On Nintendo, you can play, the Nintendo NES, SNES. So of course, that's always downloaded right away. Yeah, Tecmo is definitely.
Marco, where, if you don't mind my asking, where are you? Because I know we never really said anything about where we're from, and if you don't want to, that's fine. But are you in the Midwest? Are you in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago, right outside Chicago.
Okay, because have you ever heard of any of the tournaments that go on in the Midwest with Tecmo Super Bowl? Have you ever been into any of them or?
No, I've never been to any of those. No.
Okay, yeah, because actually one of the guys I had on last week, Brad, is from Indiana. And
hey, that's where I'm from.
Oh, okay, all right, Nick. So so for whatever reason, the Midwest seems to be kind of a hotbed for Tecmo Super Bowl. Like if you go out to like California, I mean, there's a few tournaments here and there, but there's a couple here in Wisconsin that are pretty big for Tecmo Super Bowl. In fact, and a couple of the guys that are big in the community are actually in Chicago. They used to do, I don't know if I should find out if they still do meetups. They used to do a meetup like every Monday night or every Tuesday night at some bar in Chicago where they would all get together and play Tecmo Super Bowl, and they would stream it and everything. It was actually really cool. So
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. It's, I mean, something that like I didn't really know about until I met a few of the guys here in the Green Bay area that do that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's fun because it's just a bunch, it's like the one night my wife will let me go out and hang out with a bunch of 40-year-old dudes and, drink some beers and play video games. It's like go ahead and have some fun. So I get permission to go out and have fun. Okay. So next topic, game of the year. Now, I don't know, do any of you guys like follow the game awards or any of those, like when they come out at the end of the year and talk about the game of the year?
Oh yeah, super nerd. I constantly follow it. Super nerd. I don't have anything better to do. That's pretty much what I feel like I do all the time. Because people want to talk to me about it, and they're like, "Do you hear what's nominated?" And I'm like, "I don't, but I'm gonna have to look now."
Yeah, exactly. So and it's fun. I mean, the movies and the music, they do it every year. So it's like, why shouldn't video games do this kind of stuff? The only problem is, I feel like video games are very much like, and probably not. I mean, not nearly as snooty, but like, you look at the Oscars and sometimes all the movies that we watch don't even get nominated for like, best movie or best picture. And sometimes I feel like, even the game coming, like the people that nominate some of the games, you look at and you're like, okay, you're part of the media. There's just a few. I guess there's a few games on here that I never would have thought of, but then again, being a sports guy, they never put Madden on here, so
See, that's how I feel about like one of the Game of the Year nominees this year was Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
And I never, this is not a game that ever really stuck with me, and I never really played Xenoblade. And I was Marco will kind of understand this because he was one. I was a manager of GameStop for a little while, and I was actually there when they put the remaster out for the Switch of the original Xenoblade. And I was like, okay, well, this won't be that big. I'll get a few guys in. No, I had to like make a line outside the door. It was like this is in like the middle of COVID. I was expecting this to be like easy. No, I had like 35, 40 people waiting for this to come out. So that kind of gave me a perspective of like seeing that on the list. And I had friends that were like, are people still playing Xenoblade? And I was like, you have no idea, man.
I did not. I had no idea. I also did not know that there's a game where you're a stray cat that is stuck in a city of robots, which was a nominee, Stray, which apparently is getting rave reviews, 10s out of 10s, all over the place.
I will say, yeah, Stray was very good.
Very good.
I also want to make it a point. I just realized something. All three of us that you have on as guests have at one point been a GameStop manager, because I also have been a GameStop manager back in 2015 in Indianapolis.
It's the perfect.
I was manager GameStop. So
you've done it.
I'll admit there was one time in my life I wanted to work at GameStop and I just never got it. So I guess that's again another reason why I'll just shut up and let you three talk. But okay, so let's talk about it. I mean, so we mentioned Xenoblade, Stray. Let's see. Well, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, a Plague.
Plague Tale Requiem. That was a really good one.
Was it? Okay. All right.
I played that when it got on Game Pass, and I hadn't actually played the first one. I started playing the second one. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to go play the first one, so I can know what's going on in this one. So,
sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
and then Elden Ring, which ended up, at the Game Awards, ended up winning it. Have any of you played that one?
Yeah, I probably dumped. I think by the time I had finished all of the achievements and done everything, I was probably 75, 80 hours into the game.
Oh, wow.
And I've dumped more since then. From Software hits a really special point for me. I don't know if it's just being a masochist or if it's some other thing, but I really enjoy this.
I'll say he's got more patience than I do.
Yeah, it's this challenge. It's a beautiful world, and Elden Ring is designed immaculately. I mean, the soundtrack of it and the way weapons look and armors look and the way everything is designed is gorgeous. But in all of the beauty that the game has, there's this overlying sense of like you don't really win, you just do a little better each time, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you go to the community and you're like, how do I do this? And they're like, just get better. And you're like, oh, thanks for the help, guys.
So I remember I bought it when it first came out. I probably put an hour into it before I got so pissed I chucked my controller through my TV. I actually had to buy a new TV because of that game.
Wow.
Still doing it years later, baby.
See, yeah, and that's I've gotten to that point in the past, and but I mean, thankfully I never did that. It was one of those where I had to just, okay, I got to step away from this game for a while, or I'm going to throw my controller through the TV. I mean, I will admit I threw a console one time.
Oof.
So I don't know if that's any better. It's probably actually worse. But I mean, I think it was a sports game, and I got so mad, and I grabbed it was the very first Xbox, which wasn't a light console, and I just picked it up and kind of winged it. And yeah, that was. And they're not nearly as sturdy as the old Nintendo. I don't know if you've ever seen like videos of people trying to find out how durable the original NES is, and they'll like drop it off their roof and it's still like completely intact and they can plug it in and play it. That was not the case with this Xbox that I threw. So that's for sure. So, okay. So I guess let me ask you guys, Elden Ring won in this particular award. Nick, what would you say your game of the year would be?
Honestly, I would have to say, based on what I actually got to play, I would say Stray. Stray would have to be my game of the year for this year.
Okay.
I mean, the story was good. The story was really good. The gameplay I absolutely loved. And it was the game that I could sit down with my daughter and play. Like, she loved watching me play that game. So Ragnarok, I never got to play. I haven't got to play it yet. I played a little bit of Horizon. Elden Ring, obviously. But yeah, Stray would have to be my game of the year. Okay.
Jameson, how about you?
It's probably Elden Ring. I mean, if we're looking at what that award is intended to be, it's probably Elden Ring. I mean, the game just it hit all the markers that I wanted it to hit when it was coming out, and as a Dark Souls fan, it really fed into this need to want to have more of that world. And unfortunately, I can't vote for the new World of Warcraft expansion because it's after the Game Awards have already happened. But it's probably Elden Ring. Stray's up there. Ragnarok's great. But yeah, Elden Ring just hit it all for me. Just did the whole package.
Okay, Marco, how about you?
I thought God of War was was going to win. I think maybe if it would have released maybe a little bit earlier, maybe it would have won. I don't know if that really has a lot to do with it, but
Sure.
I feel like Elden Ring has been around for almost a whole calendar year, or for to win. But yeah, I thought God of War was beautiful, and the story, and I've heard great things about it. Of course, I now I got to go find a way to play Stray. So
Yeah, it is the
and I-
strangest game you'll ever experience because you're
Oh.
like, you're just a cat, and then you get through it, and you're like, wow, what an
Mhm.
experience for me. Man.
I played a game called Bad Mojo, and this is on PC in the 90s, where you get turned into a cockroach, and you have to
Oh yeah.
you have to solve puzzles and make your way back to get back into.
I think that same company did one where you play as a mosquito as well.
Oh, great!
Mr.
Yeah.
Mosquito. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
For the PS2. Yeah.
You just play as a mosquito. You just like go around and do mosquito stuff, which I don't know how anybody's just like, yeah, we're gonna do mosquito things. What is that? I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out, guys.
And that's the thing with a lot of these indie developers. They're trying to think outside the box. You got your Stray and your Goat Simulator and your Bear Simulator, Deer Simulator. Like, all these games sound like they're not really going to be all that interesting. But once you pick them up and play them, it's like, wow, this is different. I actually like it.
Like Katamari Damacy, right? Is that the one where you
Right? Yeah. Roll the ball and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
those are good.
that
games.
was that Katamari Damacy was one of them where, and I never got a chance to play it. See, now I may have to go back and play that because it just I remember watching it going, I don't. Is this something I'm really gonna like playing? And I mean, depending on where, I mean, we're all at, different places. I mean, obviously we're all dads, which is, the whole idea of the podcast. But just because we're all dads doesn't mean we all have like the same amount of time and the same circumstances and, and
Right.
so it's like, I'm looking at it going, gosh, I some of these games actually now might be something that I could, you could play with your kids now. I mean, that obviously Katamari Damacy is probably something that you could easily play with, family and that kind of thing. So yeah, now I may have to go back and at least check that out. And Stray, obviously, I could do that. But okay, so now let me two more things and then we'll wrap up. So games you're looking forward to in 2023. Is there anything, Nick, that you're looking at coming down the line here that is?
Oh, right now it's got to be Dead Island 2. I've been looking forward to this game ever since it was announced back in 2014, 2015. Okay. I don't remember when, but it's like they finally announced it. They finally got a release date. It looks so good. Like that's the one I'm waiting for.
Now, being a Zelda guy, though, is Breath of the... I thought I saw, because I was doing
Tears of the Kingdom.
research.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did hear
Breath of the Wild 2 or something is what I had heard coming out in the spring of 2023.
Yeah. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's probably another big one I'm looking for.
Okay. Jameson, how about you?
I probably have a couple on this list, actually. Bethesda's putting out their Xbox exclusive called Starfield.
Yep.
Which is, the way they've described it, is Skyrim in space, which hits a lot of notes for me. So I'm all about that. There's Diablo 4 comes out soon, and Diablo it's so classic at this point that I think I'm going to play it regardless. Hogwarts Legacy is going to be, I'm hoping is going to be good, because getting to do stuff in Hogwarts as somebody who's a student is a cool concept.
Sure.
And probably the biggest one on that list is is Jedi Survivor.
Yes. Oh, I was about to say that one too. I completely forgot about that one, and it's like, yes, I'm ready for that one.
Fallen Order was fantastic, and as a big Star Wars fan, I was really happy to have it be as good as it was. So for them to come forward and put out a full trailer at the Game Awards and show off what this is going to be like, and adding dual wielding and more customization so you can make him more the Jedi you want him to be, it's just going to hit all of the notes as a Star Wars fan that you've always wanted it to have. So I'm really excited for Survivor.
Okay. Now I got to ask before Marco gives his 2 cents here. Are any of you 3 fans of Final Fantasy series? I mean, do you?
Yes.
Okay, because
I'm a
did
huge
notice-
Final
stole my
Fantasy VII
thunder.
lover.
Yeah, because I noticed there's actually 2. If I saw correctly, if the article that I was looking at was correct, that there's a Final Fantasy 6. Again, I admit I am not. I've never played a Final Fantasy game. I probably should. I should probably stop talking right now. But Final Fantasy 16 and then Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Rebirth. Yes, that's the one I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to. Rebirth.
Okay.
Because I'm a huge 7 fan.
Okay. Jameson, are you? Did you ever play the Final Fantasy games?
I've played through all of them almost, just out of the
Okay.
respect that they've been due out of the gaming community. But for Square Enix, my love for them actually comes from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Okay.
That was my Final Fantasy VII was when Kingdom Hearts released. So like, they plan on putting out 4 at some point in the next couple of years. So that'll be their next big project that I'm gonna wait for and hope.
Okay. All right, Marco, your game you're looking forward to?
So yeah, so there's the Final Fantasy, and then I haven't played it fully yet. I've played the demo of Octopath Traveler, and they have a sequel coming out in 2023. So that's probably what I'd be looking forward to, and I'm not looking forward to the sports games.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the list.
I was looking forward to NCAA 2023 until they pushed it back to 2024.
Yeah, well, it gives me time to save up for because I've got my son and all my kids are going to want to probably play it, or we should get upgraded. So
Yeah.
you start saving up, put a 401k for a PS5.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully, somebody mentioned that earlier in the week, and again in the group, that they're like, they were kind of mad about that they pushed it back and that they're going to force you to buy, the newest gen, consoles. And I said, well, the nice part about that is by fall of 2024, end of summer 2024, hopefully both the Xbox and the PlayStation are more reasonably priced, or they're not. I shouldn't say they're not terribly priced, I don't think, compared to what most new consoles are.
I mean, they're just still not even available, right? Like,
oh, exactly. That's kind of the biggest
you just
thing.
can't get them,
right?
Yeah.
Even if you can, you can't because they're not there. So
yeah, exactly. So, all right. And then the one last thing that I mentioned to you, and probably the most important part of the podcast tonight, with Christmas coming up, we cannot leave this podcast without discussing our favorite Christmas movies. So, Jameson, I'm going to start with you since normally I've been starting with Nick. I'll start with you this time. It doesn't have to be in order. Give me your 5 favorite. I mean, if you want to put in order, that's fine. Give me your 5 favorite Christmas movies.
Man, 5. That's I'm gonna be honest with you. That's tough to think of 5. I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, for like a couple of hours. I'm like, do I know 5 off the top of my head? I know the ones like Jim Carrey's How the Grinch Stole Christmas is absolutely a classic and fantastic. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is on my list. Netflix put out a Christmas movie. This would have been last year, I think. I think it's called Love Hard. It's kind of a play on like every classic Christmas trope movie ever, and they actually do like a Love Actually scene in it, which is just really good. But it's really funny, and it's kind of a comedy Christmas movie, and that one was really good. I mean, Die Hard. I watch Die Hard every year, and at this point, everyone's like, "Well, it's not a Christmas movie." Okay, listen, like you watch it every Christmas, just accept it and move on.
Look, it has a Christmas tree. It has Christmas music. It's a Christmas movie.
That's right. They're at a Christmas party. That's
exactly
got to count.
Yeah, and if I'm thinking of the last one, it was actually my grandfather before he passed away, and I actually named my daughter after him. The Christmas movie he used to watch with us, all of the grandkids, every year was Miracle on 34th Street. And that was like his favorite movie. That was a big deal. So I've watched it with my girls, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, man, am I gonna be the old guy that wants to watch a Miracle on 34th Street every year now? Like, do I have to take that banner? Like okay, I guess.
Okay, just before we go to Marco here, we had somebody comment. They gave their 5 favorites, and they included Gremlins and Lethal Weapon. And and I saw that today. Somebody included Lethal Weapon. That's the first time I have ever seen anybody include Lethal Weapon. Gremlins, I if I remember correctly, it does take place, I think, over Christmas. But yeah, Lethal Weapon. I mean,
I'll give you Gremlins. I'm not giving you Lethal Weapon on this one. We're gonna have a give and take here.
I'll have to go back and watch. I'll have to go back to the tape.
Okay, Marco, what's your 5 favorite?
So the classics are there, right? We just watched Elf while we were putting the tree before we started the podcast. So Home Alone, Christmas Vacation. But for some sleepers, Four Christmases is good. That's Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon. Although Reese Witherspoon frightens me, I don't know why. It's a good movie. And then Four Christmases, which is Ben Affleck and James Gandolfini, Catherine O'Hara. He plays like a down on his luck kind of crazy rich guy, and he rents out a family for the holidays. And it's I don't know, it's hilarious. It's James Gandolfini, it's Christina Applegate, Ben Affleck playing a knucklehead. It's just a good Christmas movie. All
right. So. Nice. How about you, Nick?
I'm surprised nobody's mentioned A Christmas Story. I mean, that's top tier golden Christmas movie right there.
I have Christmas,
like I'm the same that's the movie that made me want a BB gun. I mean, that could be just me.
Christmas Story is like Star Wars to me. I have fatigue. It's like
that's fair enough.
It's going to be on for like 3 days, nonstop. It's like
that's fair.
It's a good one, but
hey, HBO just put out a new one, man. Your fatigue's got to be gone now. You just go watch the new one, man.
Yeah. Right. Which I'm looking forward to watching that one. As soon as my daughter comes up from Indianapolis, we're going to be watching that. No, Die Hard. It's a solid, good Christmas movie for me. Home Alone. The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. That's a really good one I enjoy watching. And then one a lot of people are surprised that's a personal favorite of mine is Scrooge, the 1954 film with Alistair Sim.
Okay.
That one's probably my favorite of all. Like I watch that every Christmas without a hitch.
The one I think of when I think of Scrooge is the one with Bill Murray.
Right.
Yep.
That was a good one too. But just to touch real quick on A Christmas Story. Tell you what, if you want to have your Facebook feed inundated with angry friends, just post that you think A Christmas Story is the most overrated movie, or one of the most overrated movies of all time, and the most overrated Christmas movie, because sometimes I just enjoy doing that stuff to just to see how many people react. Like one time I actually put down that I felt the Beatles were the most overrated musical group of all time, and I mean you would have thought that I had friends who were related to John Lennon and Paul McCartney. I mean, and it wasn't nasty, but again, it's people's opinions. For me, and I guess Marco, I would agree with you with the whole fatigue thing. I don't necessarily think A Christmas Story is a bad movie.
It's just overplayed.
Yeah, I don't feel it's worthy of a 24-hour loop on. I would rather watch Die Hard for 24 straight hours.
Yeah, switch it up a bit.
Yeah,
switch
exactly.
Every year,
I'd rather watch
else.
Elf for 24 straight hours. I mean,
Yeah.
I think FX finally started. They finally, got their heads on straight and started playing Die Hard for 24 hours. And I was like, thank you. Somebody.
Ooh, man, you lose everybody when FX even drops off you, and they're like, yeah, we're out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I guess a couple that I would mention that haven't been, and maybe, I mean, with my kids are 9 and 8. So the I'm trying to think if I've even seen the Grinch. Now this may sound horrible. The Grinch with Jim Carrey, I think I may have seen once. But there's a new Grinch, or it's I think it's a couple years old, so it's newer. That Illumination puts out, the same ones
Yeah.
that put out.
Oh, that one's not
yeah.
bad.
That
one's
one's
not bad.
Yeah, my son likes that one. Yeah.
we've watched that one probably about 5 or 6 times in the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Our kids just love that one. And then well, Christmas Chronicles 1 and 2, both on Netflix. That's with Kurt Russell and Goldie
He
Hawn.
makes a
Oh,
good
yep,
Santa.
yeah.
Yeah, he does. It's
Yeah.
it's really, it's great. I mean, that's just a great movie. And then there's one called Klaus. I think it's Klaus. That's on Netflix.
The animated one.
Yeah, yeah.
That movie is that you will cry.
Yeah.
I don't care how tough of a man you think you are. That movie will tag you, and you will feel emotions you haven't felt sometime.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good ones. And Jameson, I have another thing I have to confess here. I don't think I've ever seen Miracle on 34th Street.
Ooh, geez.
So I
It's
may,
like
I know you may not ever want to come back on the podcast again after that, but
one of my buddies actually messaged me because he's watching, and he reminded me of it. It's not technically a Christmas movie, but Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights that he did. It was like an animated film that he did, and it's supposed to technically be around Christmas time, but it's Hanukkah. And they kind of blend Christmas into the movie. It's really just a funny animated, like classic Adam Sandler shtick movie.
Sure.
Yeah, and then someone said Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
And man, Bad Santa hits a lot of really great points.
And and you know what? Another one I'll mention real quick that I actually really liked it. I mean, my wife was watching it, and I watched it with her. It was funny. Bad Moms Christmas. Have you ever seen any of the Bad Mom movies?
Oh yeah.
Any of them. There's 2 of them. So I mean, yeah, those are. Nick's phone died, so okay, he's off. So,
Oof.
But yeah, Bad Moms Christmas was actually really, really funny. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of Mila Kunis just to begin with.
Oh yeah, I mean that's totally fair.
Yeah. So, all right, but James, do you have any big plans for Christmas before we leave?
I'm out here in Omaha, and the winter front hit us. So currently outside, it's -7.
Yep.
So
good times.
I think I have to go to my father-in-law's tomorrow. I have Christmas morning with my family. But really, other than that, I just like being home. I don't have to work. I don't have to get phone calls about meetings or what's coming up. So it's kind of nice to just be like, cool, I'm going to like open presents, then send everybody on their way and go play World of Warcraft. Goodbye.
Exactly. Marco, how about you?
Our big plans are after on the 28th, we're going to drive down to Phoenix from Chicago. So that was a great idea to see how that goes with family of 5. So yeah.
Oh. Good.
But for the holiday, we'll just do standard gifts and just gonna hang out, and that's our big plan.
Now, what are you guys getting for weather? Because kind of like what Jameson mentioned. I mean, we just got about 5 to 7 inches of snow, and then tomorrow actually the schools are closed because it's supposed to be blizzard, like 50-mile-per-hour winds and 35 below with the wind chill around here. So are you getting the same thing in Chicago or not?
Same here. My PC is telling me it's -14 outside right now.
Oh, nice.
We didn't get as much snow as they promised us, so that was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, it's going to be now things blowing around.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're closed. Work I might be able to remote in. So we'll just hunker down.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And Nick, if you're listening, sorry your phone died, man. But thank you, Nick and Jameson, Marco. Thanks for joining me. Really enjoyed talking to you guys about video games for the last hour and 15 minutes. And would love to have you guys back again. So enjoy your Christmas. Everyone else, enjoy your Christmas. Enjoy some video games. Hopefully we get some good football this weekend. I mean, it was pretty exciting football last weekend. So hopefully we get more of the same. And we'll see you guys back here next Thursday, 8:30 Central Time. Take care, everyone.
Right on, Aaron. Take it easy, guys.
See you, Aaron.
Yep. Bye-bye.